Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to this ICAHD UK webinar. We're pleased to have attendees here, not only from the UK, but from several European countries, from New Zealand, from the United States, and Canada. We appreciate your interest in this subject, brought to you by ICAHD UK, which supports the Israeli Committee Against House Demolitions, founded in Jerusalem. Here in the UK, we've been going now for 20 years with our awareness raising, education programs, campaigns in the UK, the lobbying that we do in Parliament, yes, loads of activity as we support ICAHD. And we've been involved in rebuilding Palestinian homes over the years and all kinds of activism, which continues to this day with in-depth issue-based study tours that we support, which takes internationals to be on the ground in the occupied territories and in the state of Israel. Now, since October the 7th, our focus has been quite rightly on Gaza. We mourned what happened on the 7th of October when Hamas broke out of Gaza and went into the state of Israel, and the death and the destruction and the hostages that were taken at that time. But we have put this occurrence in context of the fact that Gaza had lived under oppression, bombardments, under siege since 2007. In November last year, ICAHD put out a statement which framed what's happening as a genocide over the Palestinian people. Now, as this focus has been on Gaza, what we've seen happen over the months is that there have been more atrocities happening within the West Bank and in the state of Israel. In July, we had a webinar that focused on apartheid and the intensifying terrorism happening within the West Bank. Today, we are turning our attention to Gaza and looking at the plight. No, we're not. We're looking at the plight of the Palestinians in the Negev and those who live in the unrecognized villages in the Negev. We have two speakers who've joined us today for this focus. They are Khalil Alamour and Dr. Yeela Raanan. Khalil Alamour is a teacher and lawyer by profession. He is from Al Sira, which is one of the unrecognized villages in the Negev, the Naqab, as they say in Arabic. And he's an active member of the Al Sira Community Council and a member of the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Bedouin Villages in the Negev. And he's a secretariat member of the Negev Coexistence Forum for Civil Equality. Dr. Yeela Raanan, also known as Yale, has spent her life promoting the rights of the residents of the unrecognized Bedouin villages. She's the general manager of the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Bedouin Villages, and as an academic, Yali has taught classes such as Oppression as Policy, and is taught in the field of economy and society. So it's wonderful to have you, Khalil and Yali, here with us today. I'd like to start by asking Khalil if he could tell us about the Bedouins in the Negev. Who are they? Can you tell us something about the history, what happened in 1948, and then where this Bedouin population went on to live? Thank you. Khalil.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for having us in this webinar. It's very, very important to hear this voice from Naqab, the forgotten area and people unfortunately. So the Bedouin are a very small and indigenous community that lived always in Naqab, in the Negev, in the desert, in the southern part of Israel, Palestine, for generations and generations and generations. Many of them even lived here predating the Islam in the sixth and the seventh century, and very small portion of them remained in or survived the Nakba in 1948. Only 11,000 people survived the Nakba. The rest of them either killed or expelled to the neighboring Arab countries, Egypt, Jordan, Sinai, and even the West Bank. Those people, the group who survived, remained. The Israeli government put them under military regime and relocated them into a small area, which is called the sewage area or the fence area, which is located between Beersheba, Arad, and Dimona. Which was barely 10% of the Negev lands. This group growed and growed and growed. Today we are talking about 300,000 Bedouins in the Negev. And those make about 38% of the population in the Negev, Jews and Bedouins. So they are more than 1/3 today, but they don't have 1/3 of the Negev, even not 5%. Those 10% of the Negev that were the Bedouin were located into this area, the internally displaced people that the Israeli government displaced them and put them into this small area. This area was resized and seized along the years, and now it is less than 3% that the Bedouin families are holding and living in. The Israeli government continue pressuring them and demolishing their houses up to date. This process is being intensified now under the Ben Gvir government and policy. He is the police minister or the internal security, something like that. And he is very proud about that he is demolishing homes of the Bedouin community. And these actions are really creating a new atmosphere that we didn't have in the past. A lot of hatred, a lot of tense, a lot of oppression, a lot of frustration among the youngest and the old people. No hope really. People are looking forward to see this government going away and replaced in the coming elections. This is the only hope that the Bedouin community have, unfortunately, today.
Khalil, can you talk a little bit more about El Sira, your village? Can you give us a flavor of your village and what you've done in your village as unrecognized villages? So you've got unrecognized villages, recognized villages, and the other category of where the governmental planned. Yes, that's it, villages. Could you explain that, please, for the people?
Thank you. Sira is one of 35 unrecognized villages that we still have. Originally, we had 45 unrecognized villages, beside the 7 Bedouin towns that the government established along the past 70 or 50 years, and tried to concentrate the Bedouin into these places. But many of the Bedouin rejected the plan and preferred to stay in their lands. So after our pressure in the RCOV, the Regional Council of the Unrecognized Villages, Adala, and the Negev Coexistence Forum, these villages, 10 of them were recognized in 2003, and we remained with 35 unrecognized villages. Now we are talking about another 3 new villages that is being recognized, Rakhame and Abde and Khashim Zan. So we will be only 32 unrecognized villages only, which is ridiculous, really, only. But Sir is one of them. And in 2006, we received all the 55 houses in the village received demolition orders. And we needed to go to the court. And they took us to the court. And we start our struggle for 8 years. During those 8 years, we passed through 2 courts, which is the magistrate court, the basic court in Israel, and the district court. And both of those courts dismissed the demolition orders and canceled them. And we were waiting very long time to see if the government is going to appeal to the highest court, which is the Supreme High Court, but they didn't finally. And the demolition orders were finally dismissed. And today, the old houses are protected by the decision of the court, but the new houses are a subject of every new house. Each new house is a subject of demolition. Unfortunately, people live in very, very hard conditions, and a big plight, really, because the new couples cannot build their houses, and they need many times to live with their families, with their parents, and the solution look very, very hard and very, very far, unfortunately, in Asirra and in all the other villages in Israel. But up to now, we feel a bit safer because we succeeded. It was the only village that we succeeded to save it and cancel that demolition orders. So it's unique.
Yes, thank you. And maybe we can find out even more about El Sira in a little bit as we go through this webinar. I just want to say that you're sitting there with electricity because you have solar panels to provide it, because otherwise these unrecognized villages have not been provided with electricity, correct?
Yes, yes. No one of the 35 unrecognized villages are connected to the electricity. Even the new ones that was newly recognized, the 10 that I mentioned a few minutes ago, are not connected to the grid. Only the schools and the kindergartens are connected to the grid, but the houses of the people are not connected. I started this project in 2003. I was one of the very first ones in the villages who connected the village to the solar panels and replaced the generators that we have. And today, all the villages connected, and all the other villages also connected to the electricity through this thing, which is the solar panels. We don't have any other solution. The same with the water. Water is a very, very difficult issue, and many villages are connected with a very, very tiny pipe, which they laid from 8 kilometers and 5 kilometers and 6 kilometers to the village, and the water there is very slow. But people have those small drops of water, at least, to cover their very, very basic needs.
Yes. And life in these unrecognized villages certainly is very basic, very tenuous, very difficult, but yet there can be a wonderful spirit. We'll unpack that a little bit more later. I'd like to bring in Yali now, please, and to hear your experience, Yali, of involvement with the Bedouin villages.
Hi, hello everybody.
There you are.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us to speak to you guys, and thank you for your interest. And I'm very glad that the ICAHD is active, because the end result of the policies of Israel is the home demolitions. It's not, I mean, will explain later how it works that we do have these home demolitions, but the home demolitions are the most painful part, the most painful result of the policies of non-recognition. So when we try and change the policies, we don't try and change the home demolitions, we try and fix the root causes, but it's the demolitions which are the most painful part. So I was also born in the Negev. I grew up about 5 kilometers from Khalil in a town called Arad. When I finished I did my PhD in the United States, and when I came back, I knew I did the PhD in order to be able to be part of the struggle for the rights of the Bedouins of the Negev. And over the years, I've been part of the Negev Coexistence Forum. I met Khalil, Khalil years ago, right? We were both young. I moved to work with the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Bedouin Villages, which is a Palestinian Bedouin organization. It's not a Jewish organization. It's not a coexistence organization. It's a grassroots leadership of the unrecognized villages. And it was unexpected for a Jew to request to be part of this organization. And I've been with this organization for more than 20 years now. And now the leadership is still the people from the unrecognized villages, but we have quite a large handful of Jews already working within this organization, which is really nice, this working together under the leadership of the Bedouin. You did mention, but I live on the Gaza border in Kisufim. And so I was visited by Hamas. I'm alive. I was with my daughter in the house. Just by a miracle, we were not harmed. Different story, different day. But we were taken from the next day. The army took us out of we were still under war, and they took us out a whole day later. 26 hours later, we were taken out of my kibbutz and taken to the Dead Sea. And less than a week later, I was back with the RCUV, with the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Villages, with my colleagues, the Bedouin.
Sorry. Yali, have we lost you? Or is it me? Khalil, can you hear? Khalil?
Yes, please.
Could you come back in? Maybe we'll see if we can get Yali back. I'll try to get her on the phone. If you could take over and speak a little bit more about demolitions in the Negev. Could you do that, Khalil, please? And I'll try and get Yali back.
Yes. Unfortunately, the demolition processes and activities are still carried on intensively in all the places, all the villages in Naqab. Usually we have like 2,000, 2,500 demolitions a year. This year, I think it will be double. So we are close to like 4,000 or 5,000 home demolitions. About half of them or more are self-demolition. So families are forced to demolish their homes by themselves. The police forces come to their houses and give them the notices that they have to demolish the house. If they don't, they will be forced to come, the government or the police will come with forces and huge forces and demolish the house with bulldozers, and they will be forced also to pay a fine, a huge fine. We are talking sometimes about 300,000 shekels, which is something about $100,000. Unbelievable, really. The government, in the last few years, they legislated a special laws. An airplane is coming now over my head, and they legislated the special law, which is called the Kamenetz law, which really give the government and the police more power and more forces, allocates more human resources to do this and to enlarge the numbers of the home demolitions in the Negev. And this is unfortunately, we see in the field every day. We see homeless families, families without homes. They live under the sky and with their little children. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. Sometimes we could help the families, rescue them, give them some tents and the blankets, but now we really even this we couldn't do under in these very hard conditions, very tough conditions in the war and all that. We are not talking about shelters. We are not talking about safe life in this war. It's a different story. We are talking about the very basic thing, which is a roof for families in the hot summer of the desert.
Yes, and it is hot. It's 40 degrees centigrade is very common.
Very common. Really.
Temperature there in the summer. Thank you. We've got Yali back. And can you come in, Yali? And
yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
The electricity stopped. So I'm using my cell phone and I'm hoping that the internet will be sufficient. I'm joining Khalil in his conditions.
Yes, yes.
Welcome to the club, Yeela.
Thank you. Thank you. Here I can show you the houses. We moved into my kibbutz. Our government has created these houses for us. They're like these small houses. We call them caravilla. They're not villas, they're more caravans, but so you can see this is all new. And every time I complain about having to move again, then the head of the RCUV, Atiya El-Assam, says that government is destroying our houses and creating houses for you. So don't complain. So I'm not complaining.
Absolutely extraordinary what you're going through, Yali.
It's okay. I mean, really, when we compare what we have to do, I'd like to talk a bit about the history. How does this happen? Okay.
Yes.
There is, like in every other country, Israel has a building and planning law. Okay. And the building and planning law is the way in which a person can request to build a house, to request a building permit. The building and planning law needs someone to live inside a municipality. So if you live in Arad, like I did as a child, or now we have been moved into Omer, another town in the Negev. Or if you live in Tel Aviv, then each one is a municipality, and the municipality has its planning committee, and it has a plan for the municipality, and so you have a process, a procedure it's, very difficult because it takes 6 months and we always complain. But eventually you can get a house permit or a permit to build your home. In 1965, when Israel created this law, it decided not to see the Bedouins who were living in the Negev. This is 1965. So in 1965, Arad was created in 1962. I moved to Arad in 1971. And it was in the middle of Bedouin land. This is like 10 minutes drive from where Khalil lives, where Khalil was born. And the Bedouin were not seen. They were invisible. This was in 1965. Maybe you can excuse a government in 1965. But every single day since then, the people of the unrecognized villages are still unrecognized. Israel is still not seeing them and saying, no, you are not there. And since they don't have a municipality, they don't have any way to request their building permits. And so it renders every single house of the unrecognized villages a house that is built illegally, and so therefore it is slotted for demolition. Each one of the houses can be demolished. Khalil's example of his village, Asire, in which the courts protected them because it was the government gave the entire village home demolition orders, and they went to the court and told the court, hey, but where are we going to move to? The government said, I don't know, I don't care. And so the court said no. But since then, with exactly the same conditions, several other villages like al-Hiran, the court said for this village of al-Hiran, the court said, you know what? You have a right to be there. However, since Jews are expected to build their village or their town over yours, please leave. So even though the court admitted that they should have the right to live there and to stay there, it still allowed the government to uproot them and put Jewish community in their place. So Khalil, as he said, his village is the last one that had the courts stand with him. So that's the way it works. That by not recognizing a village, the village has been there. Khalil's village has been there for hundreds of years. Most of the villages have been there for hundreds of years. They've grown. Initially, that like in the 1950s, there was probably several people, but now it's their great-great-grandchildren, and they have large families. So each one of these villages is at least 1,000. These are big villages. And the government is still saying, hey, we're not sure you're even there, and we're going to do as much as we can to totally erase the village and force you into a kind of living that is more concentrated, so that we can free the land. Okay, this is an issue of land. The Bedouins and their villages are a land issue for the government of Israel. That's the way it's done. And now, even though several villages have been recognized, the government is still using the planning system in order to force the people of these villages to live closer together and to take the lands of the village and pass them. Oh, I think I have electricity, and pass them on to the to the government of Israel. So it'll be Israeli lands. Lands of the government and not lands of the village people. This is why in 1997, Khalil and others created the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Villages. It emulates a regular governmental regional council, so that nobody can say that the people of the villages don't know what they want and don't have their representatives. They do. And they're working hard towards the recognition of the villages. We've had successes. It wasn't 10, it was 14 villages that have been recognized already. We've done other things. We've brought, Khalil explained how dire the water situation is. It's much better now than it was just 5 years ago, because what we do is we try and target governmental officials that we can work with, and we found them in the Water Authority. We had a very short period of a year and a half in which the Ra'am party and Mansour Abbas were part of the coalition, And so we got the villages that Khalil said that were recognized, as well as Tel Arad. So 4 villages were recognized within a period of a year and a half. It just shows how political it is. And now that we have this extreme right-winged government, it feels like there is a war against the Bedouin. It is a war through bulldozers. And as Khalil said, right now, it's Ben Gvir together with another one called Shikli. Shikli, in the beginning of this government, he had the Ministry of Equality or something like that. And they told him, no, you're not in that ministry anymore. You need to go to the Ministry of the Jewish Diaspora. So he took the Bedouin case with him and the Bedouin authority with him to the Ministry of Jewish Diaspora. And he and Ben Gvir together are really enjoying demolishing homes. Ben Gvir just is doing it because his constituents want him to do it. That's what's happening. Like, he demolished the village of Wadi Khalil, 320 people left with no home and nothing to do. I mean, they had a solution, but the solution, the government was slow in implementing it. And so the real thing to do was to wait until the government implements the solution, which they agreed to. But since he could, because every single home is...
Oh dear, did we lose her again? She lost the electricity. Yali was just starting to mention what happened with Wadi Al Halil when 320 people. We lost you for a minute. You were just starting to talk about how 320 people lost their home in Wadi Al Halil.
Yes.
You were there. You were there that
I was
day
there
when the bulldozers came. Can you? Yeah, we're watching the time a little bit, but could you just describe what that was like when you went to the village? So here they were, trying to negotiate with the government over the issue of the demolitions of their village. But then the government became impatient, sent in the bulldozers. Can you describe that a bit?
What's important, you use the word impatient, but the truth is the person that was instigating this stupid demolitions for no reason, was somebody who was not impatient, but very happy to have these demolitions. It's not an issue of impatience. It's an issue of the Ben wants to demolish so he can say, hey, look what I just did. I did what I promised. I'm bringing governance by demolishing homes. It's really a feeling of a war against the government, against the state's citizens. It really feels that way right now. I mean, the demolitions have been going on for 50 years. It's not new, okay? But the new part is the cruelty of it.
Because so many are happening in one go.
Yeah, I'm moving back to my house. There might be a part in which I don't have.
Okay. How about while you move back to your house, if Khalil could talk a little bit more about what happens to the people from the village when their homes are demolished. Where do they go, or how do they resist with putting up tents? There are examples we know of Al-Araqib, which has been demolished many times as well. Khalil, could you talk a little bit about that? What happens when the bulldozers come? What do the people do? Where do they go?
It's very
like that.
dramatic and traumatic when it happens. They usually do like a siege around the village. Nobody can enter the village. Nobody can go outside. They come with 100, at least 100, or sometimes more, 200, 300 policemen. Some of them even are sealed. You cannot see their faces. And it's very, very threatening and traumatic, children and women. And usually they come at 10 o'clock in the morning when most of the men are at work. So they only the men and the women and children, and they start destroying the houses. Nobody can. Some of the families cannot even save any of their furniture or electronic equipment or devices. Nothing. What you have saved before, you can take. Sometimes they give like half an hour to take children that are inside or babies in their beds or cribs or something like that. And immediately they start the demolition. Sometimes they have like 4 or 5 demolitions sequentially in close villages or neighboring villages that they need to finish very quickly. And sometimes they have more than one demolition in the village itself. And they do that very quickly and very brutally. Families need they usually stay under the sky. If they have a family nearby, they move to the other family. I remember one of the families here, their house was demolished in 2010. Even after where no, it's before the government, the court decided, but they just started renovating the house, and they said, we will be happy now to give you an administrative demolition order instead of the court demolition order. And it was easy for them to demolish the house because this type of demolition orders they can carry on in few days or a week, and they come and demolish it. He moved to his brother's house, and they needed to share the same house, one room for him and one room for his brother, and they shared the bathroom and the kitchen. 2 families in one house, really. This is one of the very hard examples that I remember in the village. But in other villages, there are very, very hard pictures.
Thank you, Khalil. Let's ask Yali if there's anything she would like to add to that, and then we're going to have to open up for questions because I think there's been quite a lot put in the chat line. So, Yali.
I'd like to add also,
yes.
Your house is demolished. It is a very traumatic experience. But living with all the time not knowing will your house be demolished is also an extremely, it changes the way you live, because you don't know if your house is going to be demolished, if your children's houses are going to be demolished once you have children who get married. And your entire focus of life is not about getting settled. It's not about thinking about your future. It's always about, will my house be demolished or will it not be demolished? You can't think ahead. You're all the time living in the present. Will it be demolished? Won't it be demolished? When will it be demolished? How will it be demolished? And so it changes the whole outset of your life. I've spoke about Ben-Gvir and about the fact that the last year it's been worse, but this is something that the Negev Bedouin have experienced for 50 years, forever. And so they are now, because of it, because of the demolitions, the poorest community in Israel, by far poorer than the rest of the communities in Israel. The only community with malnutrition in children is the Bedouin community, and it's all policy driven. The repercussions of the home demolitions the negative repercussions are endless. And through all this, the Bedouin community and the leadership of the Bedouin community through the regional council have been pursuing a democratic, non-violent resistance. And we are trying all the time different ideas. What can we do? Currently, we can't find really many solutions. Israel's not listening to the international community. The international community's focus is mostly on Gaza, and rightfully so. I'm not complaining. So how do we protect our homes? We have nobody that has leverage over Netanyahu or over Ben-Gvir. We don't have anybody. And so, and the courts are not helping. And that's extremely frustrating. So what we're hoping to do, I mean, this is like the next step. We're trying to get the community to be willing to endanger itself by coming to the villages that are going to be demolished and sitting there. We will be attacked by the police. We will be harmed. People will be hit. There will be violence. People will be arrested. And we're hoping that as many Jews as possible will join so that there'll be some protection, because in Israel for years it's been okay to harm Arabs. So I don't know, maybe we will succeed. And even if we do, it's going to be at a high price. But when I say succeed, it means that maybe when you guys hear about us doing it and you see the violence against us, then you have something more to be, to bring to your own government and say, stop this. Okay.
Wow. I thought I knew quite a lot about what's going on in the Negev, and I've learned so much more just from listening to you. And I feel like we could spend hours unpacking all of this. So today has been something of a taster. I think we must turn our attention now to some of the questions that have been in the chat line so we can review them within the time we still have available. I'm going to call on Penny or John, if one of you could start putting something to Khalil and Yeela, please.
Is Malcolm there?
John, we can hear you. I can't hear Penny. Penny, you might be able to unmute yourself, whichever one is going to speak now. But John, you're able to speak.
Let me introduce one subject here. After demolition, where do people go was a question that came up. And then how do they sustain themselves economically and for education?
Okay, after a demolition.
I would like to tell you a very short scene. So after the demolitions of Wadi Khalil, in which all the houses were destroyed, and 3 days later they came and destroyed the tents the people were having, that had built for themselves, and they uprooted the tree so they won't have shade in which to put the tents. And Jaber Abu Asa tells, and I'm in the village, I'm visiting the people, and Jaber says, come. And he brings me to this broken down van, okay? No air in the wheels, it's broken down. And he opens the van door, and it's a bit cooler inside. The air conditioner has been run on solar panels, which are hidden in the wadi. And in the car are two young girls, 18 years old, and they're both attending a Zoom lesson from their college. Oh. It was, and I mean, I cried when I was there, and I'm crying now. So it is extremely difficult. The answer is tents, as Khalil said, family, and, struggling to continue. And it's no wonder that the dropout rate is around 50% among the Bedouin kids. Khalil, it's your turn. Sorry, I had to tell that story.
Okay, it's okay. Historically, Bedouin families lived sustainably without any problems. They have their herds, their animals, their water wells. They cultivated the land, and they have everything independently. They were not independent in any. They weren't dependent on any state or government. Starting from the Ottoman Empire through the British Empire, the British colony, and Israel even in the beginning. They wanted to grow everything independently. But when Israel came, they confiscated most of their lands. They displaced most of the families to the very small seized area that they put them inside this area. And they lost, most of them lost this very, very important branch of their living, which is the growing animals. So they became dependent on the government and the government's in the security and the working in the Israeli kibbutzim and mushabim, and they started working in the very hard and black work like cultivating land, cleaning rooms in hotels, and other things. Gradually, how we say in Arabic, شوية شوية, they started studying, and we have more teachers, engineers, lawyers, doctors, nurses, and the other professions. And in this way, the life of the Bedouin became very, very mixed and with a lot of variety of sources, of living sources. This is about that, about living. One word about education system. In Israel, we have a free and compulsory education system. So the government feels obliged to provide the basic frame of education. So, for example, in my village, the government provide transportation through other mediators or regional councils or municipalities that neighboring the village, and they transfer the money for them, and they provide the buses. So the children, by the end, they are buses to the neighboring schools. In our case, it's Kseife, one of the 7 Bedouin towns, and the children can have their school there. And at 2 o'clock, they were immediately taken back to the school, so they cannot participate in any extra curriculums or extra plans, programs after school.
Thank you. And okay, can we move on to the next question or group of questions? And anybody has questions, please put it in the chat line now.
Yes.
Thank you. Penny.
Yes, can you all put your questions in the chat line, please, as we're not able to take hands today. Sorry about that. There are 2 questions here. One is about Dimona and how the nuclear plant Dimona affects the Negev. I don't know if anyone feels like answering that one. If anyone can.
The people were kicked off that land in the 1950s. And that's, I mean, that it was horrible then, and they still can't return to their lands. But beyond that, Dimona, I mean, the Bedouin live, except for one small community, further away from the nuclear plant than the Jews do. So it's not an issue except for taking their lands.
Next question, Penny, if you can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, am I still muted?
No, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, are there many settlers in the area? And if so, do they join in the demolition? And then what about people who are there all the time? How do they manage to sustain themselves economically, educationally, in every other way? And then where do the villagers, I think John might have done that one, sorry. Where do the villagers go once they've been displaced?
Yes, we've covered some of that. Khalil or Yeela, would you like to pitch in on what hasn't been covered yet? You can unmute yourself, Yeela. No, she can't. Khalil, are you able to unmute yourself? Sorry about the technical problems that we are having at the moment.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, Yeela, yes.
I'd like Khalil to answer the last question, but I'll answer the question about the settlers. The government is planning, I think, about 7 new communities, Jewish communities, only for Jews, on lands belonging to the Bedouin, which is part of the village. I mean, like pushing the people where they've got their fields, they're going to put a Jewish community on those fields to take away the ability of the Bedouin to utilize their lands. So these people, I mean, settlers means people living in the West Bank usually, but in this case, you're doing the same thing exactly, taking away Palestinian lands by settling on the spot. So yes, we have settlers like Hiran that I spoke of. The Jews who are there waiting to take over the lands of Hiran are settlers that came from the West Bank and now are trying to do the same kind of work, same kind of practices in the Negev, and taking away, using settlement to reduce the ability of the Palestinians, the Bedouins, to live in their lands. Do they participate with the police? No, the police does not need Palestinian settler participation. It does the job very well all by itself. You don't need extras. And no, they don't.
Thank you. Khalil, anything to add?
No, I can't.
Sorry,
we're having trouble with the technical side of this.
If you've got technical problems in Israel, Palestine, we have the same in Fenstanton. Right, questions has come in. Is it true that the Bedouin community produced many medical doctors? And then there's a second question, which might be a little bit longer. What impact does all of this have on the social cohesion of the groups?
Now, is Khalil able to unmute himself at all?
Unmute Khalil, please. Whoever's the admin.
So,
Khalil, that's it. They're doing to you what the Jews do to you. We're making you quiet.
Okay, I'll see if I can do something. Our administrator is ill.
Yes, now it is possible.
Oh yeah. Okay. Good.
Finally.
Finally.
I am muted here. It's a natural thing here. Very normal to be muted. Many questions and notices was raised here, and I don't remember all of them, but I can say that in the last few years, we really had many new doctors in our society. So the local or the district hospital here is called Soroka. And really, if you visit the hospital, you will see many Bedouins in the hospital, many doctors, and many nurses, and many other workers, and in all the department or all the fields there. So from one side, it is really give us a lot of satisfaction and respect to those people who work hand by hand with their Jewish colleagues, and it is a very beautiful model that we look to imitate or copy that and to other fields. And I always say, why not why we don't have this in all our life? But we know that all the other fields, in all other fields, we are separated. So we have separate schools, we have separate villages, we have separate towns, we have everything is separate. So in this field, you can see Bedouin doctors with Jewish doctors, with other doctors working together, really like something that we cannot really describe. It's unbelievable.
And Khalil's oldest son is a doctor.
Yes, one of my son is a physician, is a doctor, and the other son is a physiotherapist. So I am in good hands.
Excellent, excellent. Our time is getting near the end now, and I'd like to call on Yali for her final comments, any other information you want to share with us before you leave. If
Yes,
we could just hear a bit more from you.
We, as you said earlier, I am the general manager of the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Bedouin Villages. And we have a newsletter. Would it be possible? I don't right now have the link to it, but can I go through you, Linda, and encourage everybody to subscribe to our newsletter? It's in English. And that way you can be educated, and please do everything you can through social media, through your government, whatever you can. Because as Khalil started off and said, this is a very small indigenous community that is the government has managed to keep invisible. We do the best we can. The media does not talk about us. The Israeli Jewish media does not talk about the unrecognized villages. And so we need your support. Okay, we really need it. So I'm glad that you reached out to us today and listened. And I'm hoping that you will continue to do so through this newsletter that we send out. And there were a couple of questions. No, in Israel, we separate Arabs and Jews in the education system. So no, they don't study together. And what does the effect of the cohesion? That's an excellent question. Because when you are under oppression like that, then there's lots of negative effects to your community. The Bedouin, I don't know if it's traditionally, but I do know today they are very untrusting of people who are from the outside. And for good reason, they don't trust the Israeli government. So even when we're trying to move ahead and make decisions and bring, there's no reason to trust anybody. And when the government recognizes a village, then what it does immediately is goes in and does divide and rule. So destroys cohesion purposefully. What Israel did with Hamas and the PA, Israel does with the Bedouin as well. It is what they do. So it is not just from the hardship, it is also a direct manipulation by our government.
Yes, the real fragmentation of the Palestinian population wherever they are, and trying to keep, all the people groups separate and to be enemies.
And Linda, in view of this, it is so special that we have this RCUV, the Regional Council for the Unrecognized Villages. This is working, for the community, against the government and against the government's insistent fragmentation. We managed to hold on and to be meaningful and to be of consequence.
Yes, and I understand that there's been occasions when you are protesting an action that Israel has taken, like with demolitions or the way that Naqab was killed in al-Haran. Others from the north came down. They were Palestinians as well as critical Israeli Jews. They came and they stood with you then. So some of those actions, but obviously much more still needs to happen because the situation is so dire. And you said it's now like a war against the Palestinians in the
And the Negev.
unrecognized villages, with whole villages being demolished right now. So we will be getting that email link or the link from you for your newsletter in English, because I've not seen it either. I've tried to find, it's been hard for me to find information. So we will be putting that as well on the website, because the recording of this webinar will be posted there. So, and we're going to put other information. We're going to add a map so people can see the Siraj area. We'll have some other photos. We'll have the link to when a group of us, and I was part of it, went to visit Wadi al Halil 3 days after the demolitions, just before, this is extraordinary, just before the Israelis returned again to uproot the trees and the awnings and the tents. We saw some that had been erected, and yes, and now they're gone. So we've got that footage. It'll be there. We want to say goodbye to you because I know you've got to rush off, but I'll bring in Khalil for just another couple of minutes.
Thank you guys. I need to go pick up my daughter from her class. So I am saying thank you once more, and bye all.
Thank you, Yeela. Thank you.
Thank you. Marvelous.
I want to say thank you very much for all that. I saw many familiar people here in the group and names, and I know how much they are concerned and caring and solidarizing and standing with us always. I want to thank everybody, every one of you, for his interest and his attempt always to influence and do through your MPs, through your societies, through your communities. Many of you even hosted me in your places, and I am always excited to hear and know. And next time, I hope to see many of you independently or with Linda and our groups to visit us in the villages. This is the best way to learn about us.
Solidarity.
Excellent. Excellent. We're just thrilled to have had you with us today. And yes, take courage because you're not forgotten. And thank you. Right now, I am going to ask Malcolm to bring up some slides, please, as we bring this to a close.
And free Palestine.
Yes, we'll all say that at the end, for sure. Our activity is absolutely vital at the moment with all that is going on with all of historic Palestine, whether it's Gaza, in the West Bank, or now, as we've heard, in the West Bank, in the Negev, in the Naqab. And so for those who are in the UK, please attend the national demonstration for Palestine in London. The next big march is the 7th of September, 12 noon, central London. And nearer the time, if you check the ICAHD website, we will indicate where we are meeting. The ICAHD banners are found within the Jewish bloc as they assemble to take part in the march. The next slide, please. We've got 2 conferences coming up this autumn. The first date is the 19th of October, Bloomsbury Central Baptist Church in London. And then we're having another conference on the 26th of October, Quaker Meeting House in Edinburgh. Jeff Halper is going to be here for it. We've got a whole group of speakers, Israelis, Palestinians, and then a few local people speaking to the theme, focusing on the big picture in Palestine, Israel, from Gaza outwards. So very much a big picture. Check the ICAHD website, the address is there, and you can register for the conference already. So, and you'll learn more information from the website. The next slide, please. Today, the study tours were referenced a couple of times a year. We have in-depth study tours, very issue-based, that happen. There's another study tour in November. There will be around 30 encounters over the 11 days. And again, you can go to the tour section on the website for information, and we are filling the final places now. So please check it out and come. Next slide. Learn more about our work through the website. You know, ICAHD was established in 1997, and so there's a wealth of information on the website, from maps, photographs, videos, articles, analysis, actions, and so forth on the website. And as I said, the recording of this webinar will be found there as well. You can subscribe to our newsletters and bulletins from the website. It's all on the homepage. And the actions bulletins come out mid-month, and the end of the month, we have newsletters there for you to equip you for campaigning. And if you're not already a member of ICAHD UK, we'd love you to join us. There's information about that. As you help by providing financial support, it allows us to work on our campaigns, to provide information for you. And we do have this focus on home demolition and displacement, which makes us quite unique as well to other organizations. And then we look at this bigger picture of a one democratic state, calling for equality for everyone who lives between the river and the sea. All of that is unpacked on the website. So do check us out. Do join us. We are political issue based. So that's fine. Malcolm, you can remove that slide. And right now, as well as I've said, the thank you to Dr. Yeela Raanan. We've thanked her. We thank Khalil Alamour from the unrecognized village of Al-Sira in the Negev, the Naqab. And now I want to thank all of you who've joined us today. Thank you so much.